You are listening to the What Queens Say podcast.
Welcome to What Queens Say, the podcast that reigns supreme in the realms of entertainment news and politics. Here, we embrace the fun and the crazy that is life, where the crowns of comedy and respectability sit side by side. As we navigate through the ever-changing kingdoms and queendoms of pop culture and political intrigues, I pledge to treat all with reverence and jest, so don't get offended so easily. If this is your first time here, thank you for listening, and if you would like to be part of my court and hear all the latest episodes, be sure to follow and subscribe. So, my esteemed kings and queens, sit upon your throne, grab your royal goblets, and let the wisdom and whimsy commence.
Hey peasants, this is a What Queens Say podcast.
The Rear View.
Welcome back, my beloved listeners, to the triumphant return of What Queens Say. For new listeners and for those that already know, I'm Queen D. It has been 3 years since we called the podcast quits, but like a gay coming out of the closet, I have emerged from the shadows fueled by the spirit of Pride Month and a burning desire to counteract the hate that still plagues our world and our community. For a while now, I've been contemplating on returning to the podcast world, and after seeing how screwed up the world has gotten, especially recently, I decided to return to the throne and bring my rainbows and unicorns and my respectable opinion to the airwaves. I hope that this podcast will break barriers, educate the ignorant, and of course bring some peace and understanding to all of my listeners. With that out of the way, let's hit the ground running. The matter of contention for today is the rainbow ban.
There's the straight section for straight kids.
Indoctrination of kids.
For those that don't know, there are some non-ally straights or right-wing indoctrinated nut jobs coming after the rainbow hard right now. I'll try to keep this podcast clean just in case you are in your car with your kids or you just don't like foul language, but I can't promise anything. Right now, in these flyover cities, you are seeing a parade of people wearing drabby straight pride t-shirts and destroying rainbow displays in Target and other retail giants. Okay, they're not actually wearing straight pride t-shirts or straight pride clothing, I think, but they might as well.
There's the straight section.
To be honest, most of them aren't even destroying the displays, but creating these clickbait videos by grabbing adult tucking bikinis in the women's section and then marching over to the children's section and recording these trashy videos claiming that these adult bikinis are in the children area and that the LGBTQ are telling children to tuck and bind. People who don't know these terms, let me explain what tucking is or binding is. It pretty much is the verb that is being described is basically what tucking is, placing something neatly tight and flat, right? Like tucking in a blanket or a sheet. And then binding is wrapping around. So binding is when you want to like taking gauze or wearing sports bras. I've seen a lot of men who are straight men even who are just like trying to hide their weight or like make themselves look a little bit more defined. Will wear these tops as well. But they basically created binding tops that are supposed to be like, I guess, comfortable for a lot of trans men. But straight men can wear them too to hide their man boobs or their dad bod boobs. And then tucking, I'm sure if you've ever watched RuPaul's Drag Race, you hear a lot of like tucking. And then there's also like Trinity, the tuck. So tucking is when basically you're able to take your male genitalia and you flatten it flat and up inside of you. Not to get too graphic. And then what it does is it gives it like that illusion like that you have a vagina, basically a woman's genitalia. That's what the tucking underwear is for. Is like, I guess it makes it a little bit more comfortable. But also the bikinis, it gives all of our trans women friends and family to be able to tuck and have a comfortable tuck. I've never done tucking before, so I'm sure it can be painful because I cross my legs sometimes and it just painful on my balls. Well, okay, so getting back to it, this these people are going and saying like these tucking bikinis and these bottoms are in the children's section. But what they're actually doing is literally going into the adult section, marching these bikinis over to the children's section, and then going, you see, look what we have here, telling our children to be transgender. It's like, oh my gosh, shut up. But one thing I don't understand is like, as a comedian, you need to think of funny things to say. As a podcast host, you got to think of interesting things to say for your podcast or topics, and you need to come up with a script. How perverted are these people, though, that they come up with disgusting and vile ways to make gay people or LGBTQ people look bad? You know what I mean? Like, do they sit at home and plan this out and think of these, like, how can we make the LGBTQ look like perverts and all these other terms they use against us? But like, or do they think of it on a whim? Are they just like, oh, I'm going, oh my God, this would be so funny if I go over to the children's section and say they have these in the children's section. Like, to me, that tells me, when you're making up, so I'll get on that in a minute, you're doing this and then you came up with these perverted ways. It's like, are you coming from experience? You know what I mean? Like, should the CPS, Child Protective Services, be looking into these people who are making these videos? Because it sounds like some shady stuff is going on in their home, and I'm just keeping it real. But the thing is, back to these rainbow banners. Come to find out, this was all fake narrative made up by these conservative commie cows that was proven to be false. There were, thank God for other gay people and also straight allies that went out of their way to go to the same locations of these false videos or these false accusations and debunk these like heinous lies. So it was proven these were all lies, made up. So again, why are they doing this? Like creating, well, I mean, I know why they're doing it. Come on, who doesn't know? Everyone knows why they're doing it. But the thing is like, this is ridiculous and actually kind of scary, especially the fact that they are also using God into this and using Jesus into this, and they're making this a religious war. You know, God people are coming after the gays and the queers and the devil worshippers. I'll talk about that in the future, the whole gay and the devil bull crap. But anyways, they don't realize, though, that they're sitting here making up these lies, one, about people, two, they're inciting violence, they're being mean, they're being evil, and they're the ones sitting there sinning. They're the ones bearing false witness against their neighbor by creating these lies. Anyways, these fear mongers are also going into the adult section, and then they're trying to be funny. They're grabbing these adult shirts that say things like queer on them, and then they're like, queer, why do you gotta throw it in our face? And then they're getting more angry when they go to the children's section because the clothing is rainbow themed. And it's like, okay, I get it, gays, rainbow, yes, okay. But there are other things for the rainbow. I mean, Skittles. Are we going to ban Skittles because they are tasting the rainbow? And is that why people are gay? Maybe it's not the water and the frogs. It's the rainbow Skittles are making children gay. What's funny is, though, none of these shirts, FYI, say gay bee. None of them say queer on them. Or when I'm older, I'm going to be trans. Like, that would be actually really funny. But they are just rainbow themed shirts. None of them are saying anything. I think one of them said, like, be proud. Lift yourself up. Be your own cheerleader. Be proud of who you are. That, I think, is okay. I think that they're taking it way too far, seriously, with the banning. And then what's even worse is that these poor employees are just doing their job. And, you know, in these retail stores, they're not even making enough money to deal with, like, the prejudice of straight people privilege at all. But that doesn't stop these pus pockets from harassing the workers, just doing their jobs, and threatening with them with violence. You're judging an entire people based on nothing that you've educated yourself on, only that you're going off of what you've been told by other pugnants in the right-wing conservative party. Like, you're not even thinking for yourself. You're not even researching any of this. But anyways, they're in this place, they're going into Target, they're going into all these other places, and they're like threatening these people with violence, and you're indoctrinating children. And I just love that these self-righteous, God-loving, child-protecting, straight saviors are threatening violence against their fellow brothers and sisters. And for a bunch of good old Christian folks, they have a lot of the devil in them, and all because they are so indoctrinated by their right-wing party. Plain and simple, you're indoctrinated, just so you know, and you're not a good Christian. You're a piece of shit, and you do not even deserve to call yourself a Christian with your behavior and the way you treat people, just so you know. And when I'm talking here about the straights, of course, I'm not talking about the allies. Thank you, straight allies. I'm talking about these people who don't know what they're talking about. Speaking of don't know what you're talking about, I love that the biggest indoctrinators in America, the conservative parties, are claiming that the LGBTQ mafia, as they like to call us, are indoctrinating children. But have they read a dictionary? Do they even know what that word means? Do they even know that they're choking on words because they don't know what they're talking about? And one of the funniest thing is they are the ones indoctrinating children. Do they not know that their own conservative party is indoctrinating them? Indoctrination is the forcing or brainwashing and imposing one's views or beliefs without open discussion. What was that? Without open discussion. So while most people on this earth are open to the discussion, especially the gays, we love a good kiki, there are those on the conservative spectrum that just don't like people thinking freely, and they don't even want to allow a discussion to be had. And I know there are going to be people like, oh my God, like Matt Walsh always has discussions, and so-and-so from the Daily Wire always has people on, and they're just so gross and so disrespectful to these kind, sweet Christian folks in the conservative party. And it's like, no, there's a difference between having an open discussion and not. They will have members of the LGBTQ on their show, but it's more like, we don't care what you say, but this is what we say. We are right and you are wrong. You're not having an open discussion. It's like that whole my way or the highway. That's not a discussion. That is indoctrination. Let's be honest. True freedom for all Americans scares conservatives. Let's get that straight. We all know it. There's been, in the past year and a half, there have been more regulations, rules, laws that affect the freedom of people in the LGBTQ community. They're allowing these governors and leaders in these conservative places to come in and tell you how your children need to be raised, how your children need to be told, because of the outside people that are going to hurt them. But the people who are going to affect your people and hurt yourself is your own party. The LGBTQ are not coming after anyone's children. Shut up. This is like the most ridiculous thing, and it's getting so tiring and old. It's funny how when they open their mouths to complain about anyone different from them, all they do, they just go a diarrhea of the mouth and say the same freaking things. Back then, it was gay people are perverse. I know a lot of perverted straight people. Don't get it twisted. And it's like, gay people are that. I know some straight people that are that too. Oh, gay people want everyone to love them, and actually what they really want is to turn everyone gay. Really? As gay people, we know you're born that way. Here is what conservatives, by the way, and I'm not talking about all conservatives because I consider myself conservative on a lot of issues, just so you know. But I'm talking about like those bigoted, fake, evil, mean, indoctrinating control freaks that are these conservatives, okay? By the way, if you're conservative, I'm not talking about just like a conservative Republican. I'm talking about all conservative Democrats, conservative liberals. Yes, there are conservative liberals. But I'm talking about those people. I'm not talking about an actual political party. That's why I'm not saying Republican. I'm not saying Democrat. When I'm talking about people, I'm going to use terms that relate to them as their values or their beliefs. There is a difference between being conservative but also being a good person. But most of these conservatives that are out here yelling and preaching their hate are evil people, and you're not seeing it. You're seeing them as good old Christian folk, but they're not. They're evil people that are going after rainbow clothes. They're going after people and say it's from love. Whenever I hear them spewing out the mouth, all I hear is like, how dare you have free thinking? You're all sheep for having free thinking. How dare you tell my child that gay people are people too? And how dare you say that trans women are women too? And how dare those liberals allow for there to be same-sex marriage? How dare other American citizens outside of conservative thinking have freedoms too? How dare you tell my child that we should love our neighbors as we do ourselves? My whole thing though is like, telling children or people to accept gay people is not indoctrination. Having clothes that help people who are transitioning to be more comfortable in their skin and in their bodies is not indoctrination. Having children wear rainbow shirts is not indoctrination. Respecting people for who they are is not indoctrination. Let's get that straight. Me saying, you can't say that. That is wrong. You need to accept these people for being who they are. That's not indoctrination. That's called respecting people. That's loving thy neighbor. Hello. Another issue is like, oh, there are children's stories where the boy has same-sex parents or that the girl has same-sex parents. It's indoctrination. It's not indoctrination. No child who is straight, who likes the opposite sex, is going to read that book and go, oh, am I supposed to marry a man? No, they're not. Come on now. Everyone knows when you're gay, you know you're gay. You cannot be gay if you are straight. That is just, you can't, okay? And I'm using gay as an umbrella term for basically the LGBTQ. If rainbow clothing or rainbows in general are making children gay, then everyone on earth would be gay. Plain and simple. Now, one other issue is we have, of course, it's so annoying when these places just do it once a month. But basically, we have Pride Month 1 month out of the year. You have 11. Everyone's like, we don't have a straight Pride Month. Yes, you do. You have 11. Every month is straight Pride. You can walk down the street holding hands and nothing will happen to you. You can walk down the street and kiss and make out on the street every single freaking day in public and nothing will happen to you. Whereas gay people, we do. Pride Month is not about it's not about just being, hey, respecting gay people, let's give them a month. It's also about showing that we're people too, and we deserve to celebrate a month of, our own self-pride. And the great thing is gay pride, Pride Month is for every nation, every race. The only difference is it's for LGBTQ people, and of course allies get involved as well. But this is where the gay community, the trans community, the queer community, the lesbian community, it transcends race. It's every single nation, every single people, every single gender. And don't get me started on genders. I know people are like, there are like 25 million genders. If that's how people feel, leave it alone. Moving on. What are you? Oh, I'm a Zimzazer. Okay, cool. Whatever. Moving on. It's not a big deal, Matt Walsh. Calm the fuck down. Anyways, we have basically one Pride Month every year. Once a year. You get your rainbows in your face for once a year. Calm down, all right? You have straight clothing all year long. This is another thing I keep hearing. Where's straight clothing?
Where's the straight section?
You have straight clothing. Go into any children's section all year long, even during Pride Month, just so you know. And you're going to find a shirt that says, you think I'm cute now? Wait till I'm 18. On a onesie for a baby not even a year old. Really? Oh. Okay, so that's not indoctrination and coming after the children? No, it's different, right? Because straight. That's the funny thing. You got a shirt that says Daddy's Little Girl or Daddy's Little Boy. But if we had a onesie that said Daddy's Little Queer, how will you feel? Oh, that's different. It's not indoctrination when they're straight. Straight is okay. Straight is perfect. I want to not keep going on this tangent. Let us just have the rainbow pride displays. It's not hurting nothing. It's not indoctrination. You're just teaching your child to be an evil, hated bigot. Gays have always been here. Trans people have always been here. We have been here since the dawn of time. We aren't going anywhere. If your child is gay, it is because they were born that way. You can't blame yourself. You can't blame outside influence for making them gay. You can't blame the rainbow. You can't blame the rainbow displays. You can't blame the teachers. You can't blame the education. You can't blame anyone. The only thing is that's who they are. That's how they were born to be. And you shouldn't even fear that your child may be gay. because that's just how it is. Just move on. Get over it. Your kid's gay. Okay, done. Moving on. Your child's a lesbian. Okay, done. Moving on. Your child is trans. Okay, cool. Done. I respect you. Moving on. Like, get over yourselves. Having a gay child, a trans child, a lesbian child, a queer child, an asexual child, say Zemzer, a non-binary, gender fluid, Episcopalian, vegetarian, like, what's wrong with that if that's who they are? Now, I want to educate those listening on why these conservatives, or maybe yourself, may have a bit of prejudice. And as a gay man that is as white as the fluorescent lights in 7-Eleven, I can only speak on the gay prejudices that I've faced, but I cannot, of course, on the behalf of my melanin brother and sisters' prejudices. So that being said, I'm sure all people who have been mistreated for being themselves will be able to relate to this in some way. But my thing is, like, the reasons why people may harbor all this hate or prejudices towards those who are different is because it greatly depends on, like, their influences or what happens in their social lives or in their own culture or even psychological or personal experiences. It is essential to basically understand that all hatred and all prejudices are learned behaviors, and they're often perpetrated by ignorance, fear, or a lack of exposure to diverse perspectives. Plain and simple. Fear of the unknown can contribute to prejudice. Some individuals may feel threatened by those who are different because they challenge their preconceived notions or disrupt the status quo. It messes with their brain and they get angry. Instead of lashing out at the people they should be lashing out at, they're lashing out at the wrong people. And most times, people of power or people of privilege, they go after the people they feel are beneath them. So in some cases, though, people may have been taught these beliefs or stereotypes by their families, communities, or social structures, leading to being prejudiced. I mean, look at it. Those of you who are allies, as a gay man, I've heard these, but as an ally, I want to ask you, have you heard in your family before you openly became an ally and you hadn't even met maybe a gay person yet, was there a time where you were hearing all of these evil, nasty things said about us, but then once you actually maybe went to university or you became friends with a gay person, you kind of learned, holy crap, this is not the world that I was told. This is totally okay and totally acceptable. Was there that moment with you? If so, leave a comment. I would love to hear that story. That's the thing. This is where all these prejudices are coming from. This is where all this hatred's coming from. I can tell you countless of stories on this that I had to deal with. But anyways, to combat hatred or prejudice requires a few things: education, empathy, and open-mindedness. It is important to understand that by actually getting involved in the cultural exchange, learning, meeting, fostering dialogue, having an open discussion, not a no, you're wrong, I'm right, you know who I'm talking about. Meet with these people, have a conversation with people of diverse backgrounds, and encourage empathy and embracing difference. It can really help you to become more compassionate and not a dick. One story I do want to share, which is my prejudices, was back when I was a young gay man and I was fresh out of high school. I was working this job. I started that summer after high school, and I was still trying to come to grasp of being gay. I hadn't come out yet, and it still took me a few years to come out. But when I was young and stupid, I had issues with trans people, and I thought, how can you change your sex? Like, how can you be born in the wrong body? I understood that you were gay or lesbian or bi, or you were man or woman. Back then we didn't have like multiple genders. I mean, we did, but like it wasn't like a talked about thing. Because I even remember back in like 2001, one of my friends was like, "Oh, I'm non-binary." I'm like, "Oh, cool. What's that?" And they're like, "I just don't identify as male or female." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't such a big deal that it is now, because back then people were just like, "Oh, okay." I just think now people are more open to talking about it, so it seems like it's always in your face or it's a problem, but it's always been there. You know what I mean? It's just now with social media, more people are being open and more people are not afraid to say what they want to say. Like, all the racists are also coming up everywhere. You're going, "Oh my God, the world's becoming racist." Yeah, because now they feel confident to come out and openly be racist and bigots and prejudiced because they think there are there's not going to be any punishment for it. So Same goes for the LGBTQ or the non-gender binary people. They are now feeling comfortable to be accepted for the, who they are. So I had this issue with trans people. I was not a fan of trans people. I thought, oh my God, why are they like this? That's so disgusting. Yeah, I was one of those people, one of those gay people. I'm sure you know them. But, I was like 19 years old. I was a stupid, young, closeted Christian gay kid who was fighting my own demons. No excuses, though. Please forgive me. But it all changed, though, when I was at this job and this guy started working there, and we ended up working in the same team, like on the same team in the company. And him and I were friends. We would talk every day. We would have lunch together every day. I mean, pretty much just like hanging out at work. We were just work colleagues. We didn't hang out outside of work or anything. But it was about 3 months in, and his girlfriend showed up. We were sitting there talking, and then I'm being the young, naive person, like, oh, how long have you guys been together? And she's like, oh, we've been together since high school. And I'm like, oh, that's so great. When did you graduate high school? And they're like, 5 years ago. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I just graduated last year. And they're like, oh, congratulations. And I'm like, are you going to get married soon? And that's when they go, oh, well, that, it's not legal for us to get married because I'm a woman. And I looked at him and I said, you're a lesbian? I thought you were a man. Because I never asked, are you a man? Like, you look like a man, you talk like a man, you dress like a man, like, you're a man. And I was just like, okay. Like, I never even thought, like, he was even gay. Like, I didn't think he, had any femininity at all. Like, I literally saw a man. And so I was like, what? You're a lesbian? I didn't know you were a woman. And that's when he says, in the government, I am a woman, but I identify as a man. And then that's when I said, oh, are you trans? And he said, yes. It's funny. You would think me being that uneducated, dumb, ignorant kid, but I think because we knew each other for a few months and we were really close at work, I didn't even do that. I just went, wow, you're my first trans friend. And then that's when it all changed. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I remember going home and I was out on my porch with my roommates. We were all hanging out. And then I see my next door neighbor and I went over and we were talking and I asked her if she had any like trans friends. And she's like, oh, I have tons. And I'm like, really? And I said, and then I told her what happened. And she told me some great advice, which is when someone is different from you, you don't need to question it. You don't need to question them. You don't need to even get angry about it because it's not you. It's not your business. They're your friend. They're not hurting you. Just let them be themselves. I really became open more to the trans community and accepting of the trans community. And that's what educated me and opened my eyes to trans people and how we need to respect them. The rainbow displays, the banning the rainbow at Target, moving displays from the front to the back, the flags, the rainbow cups, all of that, it's prejudice. That's what it is. It's hatred, it's uneducated bigotry, it's self-righteousness, it's terrible human beings given the platform and the encouragement from our own political leaders to behave in this manner towards each other. My final thought, there is no reason to hate people because of their sex, their orientation, or their race. Hate them for their actions, and the only people I see showing their evil and nasty colors are the ones coming after the rainbow. Take care, kings and queens. Until next time, the royal court is dismissed.
There's the straight section.